In this video, I'm going to show you how to change the two transmission drive belts on this John Deere E-Series riding tractor. It's kind of a difficult job, but I'm going to give you the best options that I've found in doing this job. You can definitely save yourself some money because you probably are not going to want to hear about the repair bill at the shop. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, so let's talk about our options here. Normally, when you do a belt job like this on these tractors, it's pretty easy. You just have to take off the deck and everything is right there. You can get to all the pulleys, including the one over the transaxle. But in this case, they've got everything buried so deep, you can't get to anything without either taking out the transaxle, or what we're going to do today is I'm going to remove this green body. Neither choice is that great, but it's an easy job and you can definitely save yourself some money. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with our throttle cable right here. All of these cables that I'm taking off is because they're too short to pull the top of the console apart right there. Just go ahead and remove these 5 bolts. I think they were a T25 if I remember right. And there's 5 of those around the perimeter there. Carefully undo the cover for the steering wheel, and not to scratch it all up. And I believe this center bolt here was a 3/4, if I remember right. And just carefully remove the steering wheel. Now we've got to get all these wires loose out of the way right here to get the top of that off right there. Pull these plugs out. Now you might want to label all of these plugs, including the ones on the starter solenoid, to make sure you get them all back the same way. Let's undo the starter right here, and I'll just put the nut right back in its place. Alright, pull the fuse off of there, and now our top of the console is ready to come off. Remove these 4 bolts from the bottom piece and carefully undo the parking brake without breaking any of those orange tabs right there. That looks like I missed one right there. Now this bottom piece can just come off completely and get out of the way. Now this part here is actually one of the most difficult parts of the whole job, is to get this loose. Carefully work it loose. You might even need a heat gun. I kind of jammed a screwdriver under there to help it wiggle loose, and when I put that back, it did fit nice and tight. Here's our seat switch. Just carefully undo that, trying not to break that tab right there. Here is our blade height adjustment. Just go ahead and remove that. I think it was a T40, I believe. And the seat springs are screwed into the frame, so that's got to come loose too. Now this part here is underneath where the speed pedal is on the right side underneath. Just undo that. And here the safety switch has got to come loose as well. And I think last but not least is this spring right here. Just take that off and set it aside. Now we can remove the whole body and get it completely out of our way. Just set it on something soft so you don't wind up scratching it all up. That way you can put it back. Now this gas tank is totally in the way, so it's not really held down by anything but friction. Just carefully and slowly pull that out of the way, and you'll have to pull loose the fuel lines from that little clamp right there so you have enough slack right there to set it on a table. Now we're going to take loose our little belt guard right here, and for this next part you'll want to make sure the parking brake is set to release the tension on the belt, and that top belt will come right off right there. Alright, so pull the belt on out of there, and just set that aside for the moment. We'll get back to that here in a second. Remove these 4 bolts around your variable pulley right there, and go ahead and pull that pulley up, the clutch right there, if you need a little bit more slack, and take the belt out from around there, and then you can remove that whole variable pulley system right there. And there we go. That belt is free and out of there. Now notice that the main belt goes between the steering column shaft right through there. So what I did was I locked it up with 2 pairs of vice grips. I didn't want to use the steering wheel because you might wind up cracking that plastic. Now you can get to this bolt that's underneath right here and remove that gear, and then the whole thing comes out of the way. So you'll have to loosen these pulleys right here to get the belt out from around those 2 belt guards right there. Just keep track of the way that went. I'm going to post a diagram here in a second on how to put that all back. And go ahead and pull that out of there. Now we've got to get the main pulley down to get it away from those belt guards right there. Now, a lot of you have asked me how to lock up the motor without using an impact. Well, I put a bolt through one of the holes right there, as you can see. Now what I can do is jam a big screwdriver in there and rest that screwdriver against the frame. That way that'll hold that still while I break that loose. If you have an impact, that is the better way to do that, but I wanted to show you how to do that with no impact. Got the bolt out. Now we can drop our pulley down and get the belt out from around the crankshaft. Now the whole belt is free to come out of there. All right, so now that we got all the belts out, this is a good time to check and make sure everything's working good. There's no problems. Go ahead and give your pulleys a spin. Shake them up and down, make sure there isn't any excessive play. Check your clutch right here. Make sure it's moving. Does anybody else think this fuel gauge thing is a joke? I do. It's junk. All right, yeah. And check your variable pulley. Make sure the bearings and that are good. Make sure it's moving up and down like it's supposed to. Just make sure everything's good before we put the belt back and then discover you still got a problem, okay? All right, so let's get this thing back together. So the bottom bearing of your pulley right here goes right into that little slot right there. So I got the belt already wrapped around it, and check the description for the part numbers of the belt. I'll post it in there. So let's go ahead and pull this through. Now if you notice here, one side is threaded and one side isn't threaded. Remember our belt guard that we had on there? Well, the threaded side was over here, so make sure and put that back the same way. If you need more slack on your belt, just pull the clutch up right here, and that will allow the belt to loosen. See, like that. And there we go. All right, let's get our 4 screws back in. Now don't tighten these up too much. As you can see, we've got a plastic transmission. Plastic transmission. That's right. That's right. It's plastic. Let's go ahead and get our main belt back in there, and we'll thread it up. Here's a diagram right here of the way the main belt goes. As you can see, it zigzags around the pulley. So if you need help with the path of the belt, here it is right here. Let's go ahead and put our little belt guard back. And we're going to start feeding it up towards the front. Now right here where this steering column goes through, there's another plate underneath here that's hard to see. That belt goes between this plate and that plate, so make sure and get that right. All right, it also goes above the axle shaft that goes through there, so keep that in mind as well. And of course, the steering column is right between the belt. I don't know why they did that. So let's loosen these pulleys up, and we'll do the little zigzag thing right here. I had tightened them up because I wanted to test them, make sure the bearings were still good. All right, now obviously the V part of the belt is going to go around this pulley on this side, and the flat part goes around the other pulley on the back side. And then we'll tighten the pulleys back up, then we'll be ready to put it back together up in the front where the pulley is. All right, so I got the pulley back up in there. I got the belt inside the belt guard right there. Now I did add a little bit of Loctite to the bolt, just a drop of the blue Loctite before I put it back up in there. Now I've been unable to find an exact spec on this. The nearest I could find is about 50 foot-pounds. So that's where I'm tightening it up at 50 foot-pounds right there. And we should be good to go with that. Also got the deck belt back in its place and the second location right there. All right, so that's about it on putting the belts back on there. Now I'm going to speed up the rest of the footage on putting the body back together and the rest of the mower. If you have any questions about how to put that back together, just consult the parts where I took it apart. I tried to take very detailed footage of all that stuff. All right, I'll see you on the other side for a little test. Looks like everything's running just like it's supposed to be. Hope this video was helpful for you. Thanks for watching.